Johnny Dollar.
Mr. Dollar, this is Dennis Taylor, Star Mutual Insurance Company here in Colorado Springs.
Yes, Mr. Taylor.
An important client of ours, Mr. Dollar. His name is Melvin Lockerty.
Yes?
Well, he's spending the summer at one of our nearby guest ranches. And he's having some visitors for a week or so. He's invited them. They'll be his guests.
So?
Dollar, Mr. Lockerty believes that given half a chance, one of them will try to murder him.
Murder him?
So if you're free, if you can find the time to come out here...
Mr. Taylor, I'm on my way.
The CBS Radio Network brings you Mandel Kramer in the exciting adventures of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to the Star Mutual Insurance Company, Colorado Springs office. Following is an account of expenses incurred during my investigation of the Four's a Crowd matter. Expense account item 1. $146.20 for a cab to Bradley Field, a plane to New York, and a jet the rest of the way to Denver. The mile-high city in the middle of the most beautiful mountain country I know of, and the home of radio station KLZ. Item 2, $7.30 for a ferry plane to Colorado Springs. Taylor was there to meet me. He's a short, stocky, gray-haired man of about 50 who takes himself a bit too seriously in spite of the funny way his glasses keep slipping down his pudgy little nose.
I have one of my own cars right over there, Mr. Dollar. If you'll drive me back to my office, it's yours for as long as you're here.
Good enough, Mr. Taylor. Now, about this man, Lockerty, did you say?
Yes, Melvin Lockerty. And he's convinced, Mr. Dollar, that one of these relatives coming to see him wants to murder him.
Relatives,
The only surviving ones he has.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, here we go.
All right.
You see, they're the children of his younger brother, Henry, who died a few weeks ago at the age of 71.
Oh, I see. Now, how old is he?
Well, according to his policy, 74. Now, I'll point the way to go.
Right. And, his beneficiaries?
These three who are coming here.
Mm-hmm. When?
They're due today. So you'd best get over to the no-name ranch where he's staying just as quickly as possible. Turn here, please.
All right. Tell me, how much do you know about these relatives, these heirs of his?
Not very much, I'm afraid, outside of their names.
Are they crooks or something that he's so scared of them?
Any crook in that family, it's Lockerty himself.
How do you mean?
Well, now, how do you think he ever got hold of enough money to afford nearly $500,000 worth of insurance?
I'm sure I don't know.
Well, then let me tell you. By hornswoggling his brother Henry out of some mining properties over near Cripple Creek. That's how.
Oh?
Properties that Henry spent a whole lifetime developing to the point where they finally began to pay off.
I see.
Tricked his brother out of them and then sold them and kept the money himself. A rotten thing to do, Mr. Dollar. And Henry had been a very close friend of mine.
This Lockerty sounds like a nice fellow.
He's a crook of the first water. And if you ask me, Lockerty was completely responsible for his brother's death. You see, it was by his own hand.
And you want me to protect a man like that?
I know, but with the company, it's purely a matter of dollars and cents. Personally, I don't care what happens to him.
You really hold a grudge against him, don't you?
No, I did not say that.
You didn't need to. The guest ranch was on a broad, level spot hacked out of the side of a mountain, part of the Rampart Range, about a half mile up from Highway 24. It consisted of about a dozen neat, modern, comfortable cabins, and from the front window of mine, I had a view of not only Pikes, but several other peaks that hemmed in colorful Ute Pass. All very beautiful. Yes? Oh, hi.
Dollar. My name's Lockerty. Taken you long enough to get here. Why haven't you been to see me?
Well,
I want one thing understood, Dollar, right from the beginning. When these relatives of mine get here...
They haven't arrived yet?
Well, I'm still alive, ain't I? Now, I don't want them to know what you're here for, you understand?
Yes, but Mr. Lockerty...
Now, look and listen. I invited them up to spend a week with me to try and make peace with them. After all, they're the only relatives I got.
So I understand.
And to try to find out once and for all which one of them is out to get me.
To get you? Why?
Why? Because their father, just before he died, he made one of them promise to get even with me well, I sort of done him out of some money once.
Your own brother, wasn't it?
Yes, my own brother. What of it? What difference does that make?
Well, how do you know about that promise?
Because he told me before he died.
Mm-hmm. And which one of the three do you suspect?
Well, how should I know? I haven't even seen them, not for years. But now I've been getting letters telling me my time is about up.
Threatening letters?
Yes.
I hope you've kept them.
No, I haven't. But I'm worried. So that's the reason I've called him here for showdown. I mean to patch it up or something.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Here they are now.
Wait a minute, Mr. Lockerty. Are you trying to tell me that those three who just got out of